Welcome back to Deep Things of God, the podcast where we dive into ancient stories that still speak powerfully today. I'm your host, Alex, joined by Mr. Hernandez and Samantha, who helps us connect these stories to everyday life. Today we're talking about one of the most inspiring accounts in the book of Judges, Deborah, Barak, and Jael. This isn't just ancient history, it's a story of courage, faith under pressure. Mr. Hernandez set the scene for us. What was going on in Israel at this time?
Absolutely. After the Israelites entered the Promised Land, they went through cycles of turning away from God, facing oppression, crying out for help, and then being delivered. In this period, they had been under the thumb of King Jabin of Canaan for about 20 years. His army commander, Sisera, had these formidable iron chariots, 900 of them, that gave him a huge military edge on the plains. The people were terrified and demoralized. But God raised up Deborah, a prophetess and judge, to lead them out of that mess.
I love that she was already serving as a judge, sitting under the palm of Deborah, settling disputes for the people. She was wise, accessible, and clearly in tune with God. No fancy title needed, just faithfulness in the everyday.
Right. So Deborah gets this word from God and calls on Barak to lead the fight. Tell us how that conversation went, in your own words.
Deborah tells Barak something like, God is commanding you to take 10,000 men from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun up to Mount Tabor. He'll draw Sisera and his army to the Kishon River and hand them over to you. Barak is hesitant. He says he'll only go if Deborah comes with him. She agrees, but warns him that because of this, the real credit for the victory won't go to him. The Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. Barak shows a mix of faith and fear there. He's willing to step up, but wants that spiritual backup. Deborah's response highlights trust in God's plan over personal glory.
The battle unfolds dramatically, right? What happened next?
The Israelite forces come down from the mountain. God throws the enemy into confusion, probably with a sudden storm or flooding that bogged down those iron chariots in the river area. Sisera's army is routed. Most are killed. Sisera himself flees on foot and seeks refuge in the tent of Jael, whose husband had some alliance with Jabin. Jael welcomes him, gives him milk to drink, and while he's sleeping, she drives a tent peg straight through his temple. When Barak arrives looking for him, Jael shows him the body. Victory is complete. Jael's action is so bold and decisive. She wasn't even an Israelite, but she acted in that moment to end the threat. The story celebrates her as the one who finished what was started.
Chapter 5 has this victory song sung by Deborah and Barak. It's poetic and full of praise. Mr. Hernandez, what stands out in the biblical record here?
The song in Judges 5 retells the events with vivid imagery, blessing Jael and emphasizing how God fought for them. It mentions the stars fighting from heaven and the river sweeping away the enemy. Deborah is called a mother in Israel, highlighting her nurturing leadership. The whole account stresses that this wasn't about superior numbers or weapons. It was God's intervention through willing people. I appreciate how it doesn't gloss over the human elements, Barak's reluctance, the ordinary setting of a tent. It shows God working through imperfect people in real situations.
Shifting to history, Mrs. Samantha, are there any archaeological or external findings that connect to this?
Direct proof of the individuals is limited, as is common for this era, but the broader context fits. The period aligns with Canaanite dominance in the region, use of advanced chariots, and conflicts in northern Israel. There's even a fascinating 5th century synagogue mosaic discovered at Hukok in Galilee that depicts scenes of Deborah under the palm tree with Barak, and Jael with Sisera and the tent peg, some of the earliest known artistic representations of these figures. It shows how important this story was to ancient Jewish communities.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to spend a little more time unpacking the personalities in this story because each of them teaches something different. Let's start with Deborah herself. She wasn't just a military leader, was she?
Not at all. That's actually one of the biggest misconceptions. Deborah wasn't someone who suddenly appeared because there was a crisis. She had already built a reputation as a prophet and judge. People from different tribes traveled to her for wisdom and justice. That means she had earned the people's trust over many years through integrity, fairness, and faithfulness to God. Her leadership wasn't based on force. It was based on character. That's a lesson that's incredibly relevant today. We often celebrate the moment someone becomes successful, but we forget the years of quiet faithfulness that came first. Deborah didn't become a great leader overnight. She was consistent long before the battle ever happened.
And notice something else. Deborah never tried to take Barak's place. Even though she had tremendous faith, she still encouraged him to fulfill the assignment God had given him. That's healthy leadership. Great leaders don't do everything themselves. They empower others to step into their calling.
That's a powerful point. Sometimes leadership means helping someone else discover their courage. Deborah wasn't interested in fame. She was interested in obedience. Let's talk more about Barak. People sometimes criticize him because he asked Deborah to go with him. Was that really a sign of weak faith?
It's a little more nuanced than that. Yes, Barak hesitated. But remember the situation. Sisera commanded one of the strongest armies in the region, with hundreds of iron chariots. Humanly speaking, Israel had almost no chance of winning. Barak understood that if Deborah, God's prophet, came with him, it was a visible reminder that God himself was with the army. That's encouraging because many believers today struggle with fear. Faith doesn't always eliminate fear. Sometimes faith means choosing to obey even while you're afraid. Barak still marched into battle. He still trusted God's promise enough to act. And later in the New Testament, he's actually listed among the heroes of faith.
Exactly. That shows us something amazing. God doesn't only use fearless people, he uses willing people. I think that's freeing for a lot of listeners. You don't have to be completely confident before God can use you. You simply have to say yes. Now let's shift to Jael. Her role seems unexpected. She wasn't the military commander, she wasn't a judge, yet she became one of the most memorable figures in the story.
That's one of the fascinating parts of the account. Sisera probably believed he had found the safest place possible. Jael welcomed him into her tent, gave him something to drink, and covered him with a blanket. He thought he had escaped, but what he didn't realize was that God's plan was still unfolding. And there's another lesson here. Jael recognized that there are moments in life when hesitation can cost everything. She acted decisively. Obviously, this was a unique historical event, and we're not applying her specific actions today. But spiritually speaking, there are times when we need to act immediately, whether that's obeying God, confronting sin, forgiving someone, or stepping into an opportunity He's placed before us. I like that distinction.
Deborah models several powerful lessons. First, listen closely to God and act on it with confidence, even when it's unconventional. She didn't seek the spotlight. She stewarded her gifts, wisdom, prophecy, leadership, for the good of her people. Second, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's obedience despite it. Barak stepped forward with support, and Jael acted decisively in a risky situation. Third, God often uses the unexpected, women in a male-dominated warrior culture, a tent-dwelling ally, to accomplish His purposes. It challenges us not to limit who God can use.
Absolutely. In a world of big problems, it reminds us the battle belongs to the Lord. Faith, teamwork, and willingness matter more than perfect conditions or personal credentials. Hebrews 11 even lists Barak among the faithful for his role.
Great points. Any final thoughts before we wrap?
For modern listeners, especially women, step into whatever role God has for you, whether leading quietly like Deborah under her palm or acting boldly like Jael. Men, too, support and join in without needing all the glory. Jordan. And remember, after this victory, the land had peace for 40 years. Obedience brings rest.
Powerful stuff. Thanks, Mr. Hernandez and Mrs. Samantha. Listeners, what's one way this story challenges you this week? Drop it in the comments or send us a message. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and share. Until next time, goodbye.